Hi guys, Heather Pierce Campbell, the legal website warrior, attorney and legal coach coming at you from Seattle, Washington. I wanted to hop on video today and talk about an important topic. Important for people for sure doing business in the United States and anybody who is marketing to an audience in the United States. So this is going to be relevant for some of my international friends as well, which is why I'm going to be sharing the video in various groups. But what I wanted you to know is that if you are marketing to people in the US, which means sending emails, doing online marketing, right? You are subject to certain laws that are US based that govern the way that marketing communications can be sent and what they contain and just what rules they have to follow. So in the United States, we have something called the CAN-SPAM Act. You may or may not have heard of it, but it is the federal law that governs. It's essentially the anti-spam law, right? And it doesn't cover everything. So for example, there are separate rules that cover telephone marketing, which can be done in various ways. If you have teams doing that for you one-on-one, that's great. If you have, if you use like a robocall service, you just really have to know what you're doing, because there's right ways and wrong ways to do that, just like there is in the email world. And the point of this video today is to let you know that if you are marketing to an audience that is based in part in the United States, you need to be aware of these rules. Or if you are establishing affiliate relationships with people who are either based in the US, marketing largely to US based audience, or based elsewhere and marketing largely to a US based audience. Because in the United States, if you violate the CAN-SPAM Act or somebody on your behalf, including an affiliate, violates the CAN-SPAM Act, you can be liable for penalties of $16,000 per email sent in violation of that act. And what's happening, there are people who troll for, especially for large email lists. They get on lists, they watch for violations of this law, because you can bring a private civil lawsuit based on this, or the government can pursue you based on violations of this law. So it's a really important one to know, especially if you're creating affiliate marketing relationships with people here. And I want to keep this short, but just understand that you need to be really careful in making sure that your affiliates understand what the CAN-SPAM Act is and what it contains. So let's do a quick run through of the ways that you can violate the CAN-SPAM Act, because ideally, my suggestion is to have in place a simple agreement or some terms that you put in place with every affiliate that on the front end educates them about your expectations regarding compliance around these items. It can be hard to make an affiliate wholly responsible, meaning that even if they do sign an agreement and still go on to violate the act, your business may be found liable for that. Certainly any efforts that you take to reduce the likelihood of that happening are in your favor, which is where I come in and I try to help people avoid this, because I have some clients who prior to meeting me had either prior business relationships, including business partnerships that fell apart, or established affiliate relationships that that for one reason or another they stopped managing. And turns out that when some of their content, pre-existing programs got marketed through various channels, and there are ways that this can happen, especially if you have, for example, previous business relationships in place that that can be detrimental to you down the road, even if you don't think that something would catch up with you years later. It may. And as one example, a lot of you have probably heard of some of these big online conglomerates like ClickBank and other essentially databases that help people establish affiliate relationships to share online digital content. And what happens is if you have an affiliate, even through a resource like that, that ends up sharing your content, distributing advertising material around your work or previous work, right? You can be on the hook if they do that in the wrong way. So anyways, there's multiple complex scenarios that have arisen for people involving essentially spammers. We'll call them spammers, right? But affiliates in China advertising previous programs that that have caught up with people. And when you're talking $16,000 penalty per email, it's pretty hefty payment to pay for something that you didn't necessarily know was going on, right? So this is where I feel obligated to just educate people, excuse me, a little bit around how these scenarios do go wrong, because enforcement of this law is on the rise. Like I said, there are people that will troll to get on, especially you know, people who are developing really going businesses, to get on as many lists as possible and watch for these types of violations. So you don't want that. And again, I started to, but then I stopped. Let's quickly run through the things to avoid, or to have conversations with your affiliates about, to help them avoid these pitfalls on behalf of your business. So there's 7 main things when you're talking about the CAN-SPAM Act in the United States. 1, don't use false or misleading header information, right? So this is the from to lines. People can manipulate those, and businesses often do. And I've even seen people on some of my legal listservs have like code names or personal names for various email addresses, where you get an email from somebody that says, you know, me from ME. Well, I mean, obviously it's not from yourself, but people mislabeling their own email, often unknowingly. So don't use false or misleading header information. Don't allow your affiliates to do that. Don't use deceptive subject lines. That's number 2. That's a big one. You'd be surprised at how often this actually happens. So the subject line must, by law, accurately reflect the content of the message. 3, identify the message as an ad. So if you have affiliates working on your behalf, sending to US-based audience, make sure that it's really clear that if they're advertising something, it's a commercial message. It's not a relationship message or a transactional message, meaning like, you know, confirming receipt or purchase of something. You are attempting to sell something, and that has to be really clear. 4, this is a big one because people get this wrong all the time. You'd be surprised how many lists I've been on where this information doesn't show up accurately. But 4 is the line down at the bottom of the emails that are required by law to show mailing address, right? Physical location. And it's fine if you have a P.O. box. You can register a P.O. box and have that be the address that shows up. That's how I run my emails. So that people don't necessarily have, you know, depending on the business, don't have a specific business location or like a personal residence, right? But you have to have an address, and you'd be surprised at how many times I've seen people do this wrong that have substantial mailing lists, and they have an address at the bottom that says something like 123 somewhere in New Jersey. Not okay. That's a violation. And then 5, there must always be an option to opt out. So make sure that you tell people how to opt out of that particular mailing, right? Or a series of communications that you're going to send on a topic. And so your affiliates need to have that as well. There's nothing more frustrating than getting email that you don't want, that you can't opt out of, right? So don't do that. Have your affiliates, and if it's your own business, do this in your own business, honor the opt-out requests promptly, okay? Deal with those right away. Don't keep, when somebody says that they want off your list, get them off your list. Do it same day if you can, if you pay attention to your metrics. You don't want to irritate people any further, and you for sure don't want them being irritated to the point where they're going to go either file a complaint with the FTC or somewhere else trying to get you in trouble over this law, right? So honor those opt-out requests. Make sure that your affiliates are honoring those opt-out requests. And then Finally, as a wrap up, make sure that you are monitoring what other people are doing on your behalf. If you have people working in your business doing your marketing, make sure they know these rules. If you hire out your marketing, make sure that you're working with somebody, a company or a professional who really knows their stuff. If you're working with affiliates or JV partners, make sure that they understand what they're doing and that they're doing it the right way. A good way to examine that and vet your affiliates or JV partners beforehand is to look at what they do in their own business. Get on their lists, observe their business practices for a while. And a lot of people don't vet their affiliates or vet their JV partners. Okay, I got a phone call in the middle of that, so it chopped the video a little bit, but make sure that you are vetting your JV partners, vetting your affiliates, and something else that I would heavily encourage is that you actually control the marketing message, so that when you have terms in place, and I do recommend, I mean, it's what I do in my business, so obviously I recommend it, is I build these types of agreements for people. So if you do have questions, want to get an affiliate agreement in place for your business, be in touch. You know, I can help you do that. But as part of your terms, you should probably include that your affiliates or JV partners are limited to essentially the marketing message and the materials that you provide. So for example, don't let people just freewheel what they can say about your business. You know, one, you don't want the liability of them making claims that are simply not true or that cannot be substantiated. You know, essentially it's violating like the truth in advertising laws. Or violating any of these things that we're talking about in the CAN-SPAM Act. And furthermore, the more, you know, the better control and consistency you have around your business messaging, you know, there's a lot of advantages to that, but including from a liability perspective, where you are 100% responsible for what gets sent out on your behalf, because you will be responsible anyways. Anyways, I know that this took longer than just a couple minutes, but I hope that this helps you if you are somebody that is establishing JV or affiliate relationships in the United States or with people who have an audience largely based in the US. These are definitely rules that you need to know about, and if I can save your business some expense and some time and some hassle, then I've done my job. So get in touch if you have any questions. Get in touch if you're interested in having having your own affiliate terms or agreement put in place. Very happy to help. Thanks guys. Happy Friday. Bye-bye.